Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Friday, June 26th, 2026, and today we are talking tunnels in rough weather areas. I take you to the field with me to prep and plant some lettuce, and it is Feedback Friday, so let's do it. All right, happy Friday, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Yesterday, I had the quintessential farming day. Well, sort of. In the morning, I had some basic harvesting and random cultivation to do, which the onions are looking pretty great. I'm pretty happy about that. But in the afternoon is where the quintessential day started. I needed to do about an hour of mowing. That's it. So I got out to the mower and, I'm out of fuel. Okay, right, I'd forgotten. So I head out to go get some fuel. So that puts me about half an hour behind. Then I go to start the mower and it fires up, but out of the seat pours thousands of ants. We have this obnoxious ant here that doesn't really bite, like it's totally friendly, but will move into the most annoying and random places by the thousands. So I had to deal with that for about 15 minutes. Then I got to mowing, and that mostly goes fine until I get the mower stuck in just about the worst place possible. So by the time I get it unstuck, shouts to Hannah for her help on that, my 1 hour job is now 3.5 hours in and not complete. I only have about 30 minutes left of mowing to do, though, so that should just take a couple hours, especially when it comes to using machinery, but sometimes just in general. That is just how farming goes. Any task on your list can wind up taking half the day or multiple days, but you know what? I still enjoy it, even when I'm cussing at it. Big day for the swear jar yesterday. What are you all up to? Let us know, or better yet, upload a 20-second farm video clip to Dropbox or Drive and share that with farmermike@notillgrowers.com. We always love seeing those. Anyway, it is Friday, which means Feedback Friday, where we explore what you all were saying about this week's topics. On Monday, we talked about the other melons, also which crops make the most sense for covered growing space. I want to offer a quick self-correction here that I noticed. I was saying Chanterelle melons instead of Charente melons for some weird reason. Charente meaning from Charente, France, and chanterai meaning would sing, like je chanterai bien mais j'ai perdu mes melons, which would translate to I would sing but I have lost my melons, which isn't a sentence. Anyway, that day, Iwan Nodi wrote, quote, I like the variety Kajari melon as it grows quickly, which is good in my region, Vosges Mountains in France, is beautiful looking, striped orange on the outside when ready and very tasty, end quote. That sounds lovely. At Loke wrote, quote, hope you're enjoying the World Cup. Fun when your team is doing well. Sweden is struggling a bit, but we're having fun watching as casual fans. I was able to grow a melon variety here in Sweden named Murmel. Seed company labeled it as both cantaloupe and Charente. What's up with that? Wasn't sure how it would do, but was pleasantly surprised. Growing it vertically in my tunnel to save space, only got 2 melons per plant, the size of a grapefruit though. It's paying its way purely in the fun and great taste, end quote. Yeah, I'm not sure about the Charente cantaloupe thing, but I suppose you can cross them, and definitely in limited spaces is where that trellising of melons makes sense. Good water, heat, sunlight, and fertility should increase those yields a little bit too. It sounds delicious. And I also had a cameo that day from a little friend on my shoulder towards the end that a few people thought was a tick, but was actually a tiny jumping spider. Love those guys, preferably not while I'm filming though. On Tuesday, we discussed the perfect farm, when to get rid of a pest or disease covered crop, and what my living pathways have taught me. At Miwa Carr's Kitchen wrote, quote, you can plant clover next to scallions. I thought legume and allium are considered bad companions. I'm waiting for the Living Soil Handbook to arrive. Can't wait to learn more about ecological gardening, end quote. Awesome. So first, thanks for ordering the book. That rules. Second, you can have legumes near allium family crops. No issues there. I mean, you don't want to have anything right up against alliums because they don't take to competition very well. But no, honestly, most companion planting stuff like that is not very well supported by the scientific literature. In fact, the Google AI overview tells me that they should not be grown together, but even its own citations say otherwise. The bottom line is most companion planting information is not real, and AI is still dumb. Also, on the pathways, at Ali Bowman wrote, quote, when I was in Hort College, we learnt, I love learnt, that's a great word, that grasses have the most widespread and vigorous root systems of all. Anyone who does hand weeding would know this too. I personally wouldn't use grass paths unless there was a big buffer between the path and the beds. I love the look of them though, and they'd be lovely to walk on, end quote. And they are indeed lovely to walk on and work in. But as for roots, it totally depends on the grass. Not all grasses spread through their root systems, so they may be present but not like aggressive. Like Bermuda grass is not one I would want in my pathways, but some perennial ryegrass or whatever is fine. Anything that doesn't really creep is good by me because I'm not going to weed my paths unless I have to. And for the edges, we just use a little electric edger that handles the edges pretty well. Plus, we do a lot of that edging in the bed flips. I will say, though, one of the worst crops in terms of creeping that we get, honestly, white clover. Anyway, at Christy Pollock wrote, quote, I hate the look of wood chips, and after a 1-year experiment around my potato bed, I also hate weeding wood chips more than I hate mowing, end quote. And I think for me personally, hate is maybe a strong word for their look. I think aesthetically it's pretty clean, but I get the hand weeding thing. It's annoying. I agree with hate there. I hate doing that. Yeah. I mean, I think the wood chips have their place, just not maybe every place. On Wednesday, we put some soil health principles into practice. At George Lee wrote, quote, even when you don't feel like starting a subsequent tray/cell, just do it. One of the best lessons I've learned in the last 20 years is to have things in your line of sight that are readying, end quote. Indeed, the biggest mantra in market gardening is just keep planting. At Follow Christ Not Man wrote, quote, as long as there are hungry people, there is no such thing as growing too much food, end quote. I think that's a nice sentiment, but unfortunately, farmers have the unenviable task of getting the food to the people, growing, but also, like harvesting, packing, delivering, finding customers or people that need it. Farmers could almost certainly grow more food, enough to feed literally everyone, but they can't afford to. They don't have the labor support. They don't have the distribution. They don't have the money for all the seed. They don't have the money for all the fertilizer, etc. If someone wants to turn farming into a public service, then it's possible. But as long as it remains just another business, then people will just needlessly go hungry or be forced to eat the cheapest, lowest calorie foods available to them. Farmers, meanwhile, will continue to barely get by. It's an odd, somewhat cruel system we have when you think about it. Yeah, it's not great. Then on Thursday, we talked poison ivy in the garden, some specialty crops like ginger and others that can be worth it, and what level of shade cloth you need for where you are and what you're growing. At Michelle Grows wrote, quote, glad you mentioned not burning poison ivy. That was my first thought. I never considered the fumes. Yikes, end quote. Well, I'm glad I said it too then, because yeah, the fumes can be highly toxic and cause severe inflammation in the throat and lungs, especially to those who are sensitive to it. It actually happened to a friend of mine. And it's not one of those things where you can say, oh, well, I'm not allergic, so it won't be a problem. It may not be a problem for you, but it could be for your neighbors or others nearby because it travels pretty far. It's like injecting that toxin into the air. So yeah, don't burn it. At Don Cook wrote, quote, poison ivy, no problem for first 45 years. First exposure after got mild itch dismissed as rash, progressively more serious. By age 60, after trips to the ER, I took protective measures. Slow learner, now 75, only encountered while bow hunting, end quote. Bummer to hear that, but this is the thing with poison ivy. The toxicity isn't like other things where you can build up like a tolerance to it over time. If you even have a mild allergy to it, as opposed to being fully immune, which there are people who are fully immune to it, but if you have even a mild allergy to it and get any sort of reaction, then it will slowly hack away at that tolerance over time, making each exposure that much more severe. Anyway, good stuff as always this week. You all are the best. Up next, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will huff and puff and try not to let our tunnels get blown away. It's a good story. BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Grown By. Grow smarter with Grown By, the farmer-owned cooperative. Grown By is the platform for online sales of everything, custom and traditional CSAs, halves of beef, flower bouquets, wholesale to restaurants, and now Grown By supports in-person sales too. Their new app, Grown By Register, you can supercharge your market and farm stand, finally bringing together your online and offline sales and customer data. Grown By is proud to make local food accessible by processing SNAP benefits online and in person right within the app. Grown By helps you put your best food forward. Schedule a demo at coop.grownby.com/no-till. That's coop.grownby.com/no-till. All right, back to the show. A quick and loving reminder that if you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Allison Barkman, who writes, quote, hi, Jesse. Thank you for all that you and the team do in spreading this work. I know you're in the South, but not sure how much severe weather you get. Hail, tornadoes, crazy wind. If you do and have experience with it, I'd love to know how you deal deal with it. It's my third year gardening intensively in North Texas/South Oklahoma area, and I'd like to have my own farm one day, but the idea of hail, wind, tornadoes just ruining everything scares me, and looking for your suggestions in protecting plants. Also, how does your greenhouse/high tunnel manage this crazy weather? End quote. All right, excellent questions here. So we definitely get heavy winds, occasionally threats of tornadoes, and hail is less common, but it does happen. In general, wind is a huge issue on farms, like just across the board for everything from siding on barns to tarps to high tunnels to roofs. Having good infrastructure for extreme weather is a challenge in most places, but to me, there is hardly anything more destructive than wind. So whether you're in a hurricane or tropical prone area, tornado alley, or on a ridge top, or just in a windy pocket, let's talk about that, and we'll also talk a bit about hail as well, of course. One thing I like to remind people about when they're starting farms is to set your farm up for the most common extreme potential weather in your area. For us, that's tornadoes and severe wind. I mean, tornadoes, you can only do so much, but for us, severe wind is a big one. For you, hail would be thrown in there as well, because we don't often get hail in the same quantities or the same intensity that you often do. So yeah, do not just build a garden in a floodplain or a hoop house on a ridge, hoping it will be fine. You really have to secure those things. All of it might be fine for sure for a while, but it very well could get flattened or flooded in the case of a floodplain. So yes, double down on wind bracing. To be clear, no high tunnel is going to survive a direct hit from a tornado, obviously, but straight line winds can do their share of damage as well. So all the wind bracing if you have mild wind issues. Face the tunnel towards the prevailing wind so that the broadside is not exposed. That's also how the wind bracing tends to be, facing towards the front. If you have a ridge vent, also face that to the northeast so that the wind can't catch it if it comes in like it does for us from the southwest. Get the deep ground posts if you can to get that thing in the ground as deep as you can. If you're doing cat tunnels, and there's an argument to be made for cat tunnels being better than big tunnels in wind-prone areas because you could just easily remove the plastic in front of, say, a hurricane or 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts in the forecast or whatever it may be. If going with the mobile caterpillar tunnels, look into bracing them with the same anchors you would use for like a mobile home on those days when you're getting severe wind, but you may not have a chance to take the plastic off or whatever. Secure that thing however you can. And also, of course, wind bracing kits, just over and over. I'll say that a million times. 100% worth the cost. I should also add that the location where you put these sorts of things will make a huge difference. Find the least windy area on the farm with trees to the south if possible. Ridge tops can have a ton of sun exposure. Maybe there's like a hillside or a valley that would be better in terms of that infrastructure, so long as it's not the type of valley that funnels the wind or is very shady, for instance. Plant evergreens if you can on the south and the southeast side, assuming that is where your prevailing wind comes from, like it does here. Not that wind won't come through out of the north sometimes like it does here in the winter, but those wind blocks are likely to at least slow down the worst of those straight line winds if installed properly. There's a whole art to installing windbreaks, so make sure to do at least a small amount of research there so you don't inadvertently concentrate the wind. That would not be great. Last thing on the hail, double poly on high tunnels can help a lot with that. I've seen caterpillar tunnels get absolutely decimated, but the double poly on big tunnels will help deflect the hail better. You have a little air pocket in between the two pieces of plastic, and that helps to insulate it and make it a little better against the wind. You could even throw a shade cloth over the cat tunnel to at least help take some of the pressure off of a single layer of poly just meaning plastic or film, as we call it. It may or may not work, but it's worth a shot ahead of a storm. There is also such thing as hail netting. One company is called Hail No, which respect, and you could investigate those a little bit. Anyway, what say you all? Let us know. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll venture right out to the gardens to prep and plant together. Yeah, that'll be fun. Be right back. Wear some boots because it's like storming outside right now.
Hi no-till growers, this is Carl from Yam Hill, Oregon, hardiness zone 8A. We got our garlic, strawberries, onions, tomatillos, some watermelons just put in, chard, carrots, potatoes, lacy facilia, mustard, corn, tomatoes, squash, another round of corn, and some peas that went in a little bit late.
All right, so I haven't done this on a Friday before, but I say no time like the present. Friday. Anyway, I'm going to take you all out to the fields with me to plant some lettuce. Technically, I did this planting like last Wednesday, but after the garlic came out and there was still a little lingering leaf mulch, I thought I would show you what I did there, like how I went from the garlic to lettuce in just like, I don't know, a few hours. So anyway, here's me out in the field doing my thing. Enjoy. All right, headed out to the field. And I need to get some lettuce in, and I need to get some beds prepped, and I'm trying to get a bunch of stuff done so that I can watch the Portugal game at 1 p.m. So we'll see how that goes. All right, first up, gotta load up. Putting all the lettuce in here. Also need some amendments and some tools. A hoe, and probably rake, and probably some more lettuce. All right, so tilther to work in the amendments that are down there, the lettuce, and a rake to rake off the leaves, because I don't like planting into leaves when it comes to lettuce, because it gets all in the lettuce mix. No thank you. All right, so here's the process. I'm gonna rake aside these leaves, pull any weeds that are left. All right, looks pretty nice into there. Rake those aside into the pathways. Pull any weeds that are there. Move this weird white bucket. This is what the camera is going to sit on. And then I'm going to add the amendments, which is just alfalfa meal. Work that in with the tilter, and then plant. I broke my syrup hoe, so I'm gonna have to get another handle, but you know, that's fun. I've got another one, all good. All right, next up, amendments, putting down some alfalfa meal, and then I'll lightly work that in with the tilter, probably down to about, I don't know, 2 or so inches, while listening to, what do I have on right now? Total Soccer Show podcast. Let's go. All right, so I did happen to forget my gritter, so that's how I'm gonna mark the rows. And I gotta find it. I think it's in the tunnel. Actually, I have no idea. Busted. Last thing up is we plant. Now, couple things. I'm going to plant 2 beds at once. You probably won't be able to see the other one, but I'm going to be planting both of them at the same time just because it's easier. I'll only plant half a bed, and then I'll move over to that side and plant that other half, and then move over to that side and plant those 2 beds at the same time. Let's see, what else? Also, I could have lined this out so that I made sure that these were perfectly 4 feet and all that stuff. I don't really generally need to. They kind of just stay in the same place, and I can tell just physically where the pathways are. It's probably good to do that though every time. So, you know, do as I say, maybe not as I do here in this situation. And otherwise, yeah, I'm gonna try and bust this out because I've got a few more things to do before I get to watch some World Cup soccer. So, yeah, enjoy. Oh, and I should say, as I plant, I try and do as much as I can. I try and do 2 at a time. Your body will wear out a little bit after you do that for a while, so you just go back and forth. Like, maybe I'll do, like, you know, 2 on some of them, or if I have to separate one, obviously I can't do that, but maybe I'll do 2 there and a 3rd one there. But as much as I can, I try and use both hands, because that's gonna, right, it takes it down by about half the amount of things that you have to do, so you want to reduce the amount of work that you're doing as much as possible. Also, it's worth saying, because these are 4-foot beds, I have to eye this other row, so you'll see this one waves a little bit. These will stay pretty straight because I'm just going right in the middle of the grid. All right, I'm gonna listen to a podcast and you can watch a time lapse. See you later. All right, so we're pretty much planted up. I'm gonna put some romaines over here, but we're pretty much planted up. And then I'm gonna cover this with shade cloth, and then I'm gonna go watch today's video edit by Mike. Yep. That's pretty much it. Job done. Let's go soccer. All right, I hope you enjoyed that little jaunt out into the wild with me. Let me know your questions, and I can do a little follow-up bed flip video for you at some point. Flip something else. And otherwise, I think that is it for this Feedback Friday. Don't forget, No Till Growers is a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That is an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you could reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Big thank you to Michelle. Big thank you to the No Till Growers Board of Directors. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support this work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you sign up in the month of June, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Dwight Yoder. Shouts, Dwight. Always keeping it going for us on Fridays. All right, so as you will remember, Gracie, our heroine this week, has a theory that goodness, that just being good, has a payoff. Like the universe protects those who are good. And frankly, she devotes basically the rest of her life to this idea. She obsesses over what is good, not only in what she does, like helping the poor and the sick and taking care of people in need and checking on older folks and just being generally kind to people. But she also obsesses over being good in her thoughts, not hating people, and just finding radical levels of empathy and, all of it. Not everything in her life goes her way, though. She loses a lot of friends over that time to cancer and car accidents and just awful stories. She sees a lot of suffering around her. She suffers herself from chronic back pain. But when she passes away at a very old age, she's surrounded by friends and family, and she's mourned throughout her town and her community. And it feels to her like somewhat of success. And then she kind of comes to in this sort of office of sorts. And a kind gentleman greets her, explains that this is indeed the afterlife and that she had a very successful life. She should be proud of herself. But before he dismisses her to move on, she stops to ask. And she says, all that good that I did that, help at all in how my life went? And the man laughs. Well, sure, we give people a lot of points, who help other people. But what no one seems to realize is that if you did that and you took care of that amazing paradise we gave you all, that you call the earth, we'd grant you everything your heart desired. And with that, he smiles and bids her adieu. Thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you on Monday after you all have a great weekend. We'll have a great weekend. Everybody will just get together and we'll celebrate having great weekends. All right? Bye.
Introducing America's Workforce Academy, built by Meta. Paid training, a job, and a path to America's future. Because the future is for everyone. Learn more at meta.com/America's Workforce Academy.